What did you do this week?
This week, I did one of the biggest decisions in this entire FMP, and that is I have changed the mode slash subgenre my documentary is going to be within. I was originally, and a lot of my pre-production you'll see, intended for my FMP to be a poetic documentary, in poetic mode. However, upon doing more research into all of the other modes of documentary, I've decided that expository is the ideal mode I should put my documentary into, and that's after I looked at and viewed a poetic documentary that I've put in my research. You'll see the link in it, and it was very artistic. It was a lot very abstract. And initially, I thought I wanted to make a documentary that was more artistic and abstract, but it occurs to me a lot more now that it would be to an extent that I personally feel it would come off as my points would fall a bit mute. The actual facts I was trying to give the audience would be a bit of a side piece, and it'd just come off as a bit more pretentious than anything else. And that's not to say poetic mode is pretentious. It's just my attempt at abstractly breaking linear conventions that documentaries usually operate in wouldn't really serve enough of a purpose to justify their inclusion in the project in the first place. And that's why the expository mode, which would fall in line with a lot of my documentary being narrated, doesn't necessarily mean I have to add interviews. It's just its overall structure it comes off a lot more what I'm trying to do and imitate, because I believe I put this in my pre-production, but my context and background. And that's my biggest inspiration for this entire project is Tifo Football. They're a channel that puts out football animation content discussing topics such as tactics, such as finances, such as history. All those themes are essentially what my documentary is about, and their style is very much what I like to imitate. A very calm, soothing, intellectual discussion about a sport that is often labeled a brutish, jockish affair. And when I watched more of Tifo Football's videos and compared them to the poetic documentary that I saw, which I'll put a link to in my research, the gap or the difference in the style is too drastic for me to justify. So I've changed my mode of documentary from poetic to expository this week. And that was due to the research which I did this week, which brings me on to my next point. I drastically increased my research portfolio. I've been generally researching throughout the entire project, but it's really just been getting bits of information, noting down where I got them from, and just putting them. This week I really tried to put together a research portfolio that was in any kind of capacity presentable. So that's another thing I did this week. And finally this week, another huge step I took was I wrote the first half of my script. I wrote it to a standard that I definitely thought. I still think even I wrote the first half of my script, and I still believe that there's so much more within the script I want to add. The first half mainly centered around the Mansour family and their influence over Manchester City, which is a big topic in my documentary of why people would buy a football club in the first place, the impact that the Mansours have over their country, where they're from, and the United Arab Emirates, and subsequently the impact Manchester City has over the United Arab Emirates. And I covered those topics in a level of detail that I thought I was satisfied with. But as I was writing the script, it does occur to me that how much I want to include is going to need to be so refined, and the writing of this script is going to have to be so sharp and so to the point if I want to make this work as a short documentary and include as much as I want to include. But I finished writing the first half of the script to a standard I think matched up to what I intended, which is very sharp, to the point writing that doesn't feel too biased, and I think I wrote the first section like that fairly well. And I also this week started recording the first half of it, and That to me is the biggest step I've taken in this project so far in terms of getting this project on the road really off the mark, because the filming isn't going to be a particularly long process, and if I can get all the voiceover done for the narration sections and just put that into a template over the pre-recorded footage. I mean, well, pre-recorded, but I mean external footage that I already have access to. I can simply make a template and drop my footage into it, and it'll just make the entire production process so much cleaner, so much smoother. So yeah, I've done that this week, and that's a huge step I have taken. Question number 2.
What could have gone better?
What could have gone better was the recordings in general. I definitely think when I was recording them, I should have done a better job learning a lot of this script before I just decided to record it, because it meant the recording process took admittedly a lot longer than it ever should have taken. Another thing I could have done better, I think technically this doesn't apply to this week, this applies to the overall project overall. I definitely think I should have done a lot more research into poetic documentary before I decided to write on so much of my production. It seems almost idiotic now in retrospect that I was going to do a poetic documentary, because I guess I sort of pictured a vague concept of what a poetic documentary was, and didn't go in nearly enough detail to look at it might not match up with what I want to do. And I really learned that I should really look at my inspiration for this and try to reflect, like, if Tifo Football were gonna kind of list what their content would fall under, that sort of listing is what my content has to fall under. So I definitely think I should have researched poetic documentary a lot better, even though that's not specific to this week, that's specific to most weeks and the entire project in general. So that's why I think I could have done better. Question number 3.
What do you hope to do next week?
Next week, I hope to finish, not the entire script, I think that's a bit unrealistic, but a lot more of the script, especially the parts of the script that center around Leyton Orient, because the week after next week will be the half term, and over the half term I plan to finish all of my filming. So I want to have the script, parts of my script that are written for the filming, for the actual camera, filming sections of my script, all completed by next week. And that's not I hope, that's a must. It has to be done, and that's why I intend to complete next week. And I also want to get a lot of the pre-recording for a lot of the voiceover recording for the narration done, but it still won't be the complete script. It'll just be a lot of it, and it will allow me to build that template for editing that's just going to make this process go a lot quicker. So that's what needs to be conducted next week. That will be audio blog number 4. Thank you.